Hello, hello, and welcome to this week's special edition of Anchor Watch. I'm your host, Bobby Jones, and we are very, very honored and pleased to have a legend, a podcasting social media legend.
Wow.
A man who has been there and done that both on the battlefield and off, and now is taking his talents, much needed, by the way, hopefully to the steps of the U.S. Capitol. We're being joined by Mr. Fred Wellman. How are you doing today, sir?
Good. It's good to see you, Bobby. Thanks for having me, man. Always good to hang out. It's Army Navy week, by the way, Bobby. So we have to deal with that.
It is. And there's not much to deal with when one team is going to dominate, and we can talk about that later.
Yeah, but I'm excited for Army. Oh, you're talking about your team. Go ahead. Go on.
I'm so glad to be able to talk to you because you pop up in my timeline like on a regular basis. The algorithm is kind, and every time I see you, you're making common sense explanations on things that people try to make complicated, which I think is ridiculous. But I gotta ask, Fred, how did you wind up here? Like your journey, you're running for U.S. Congress out of Missouri District 2, and we can talk a little bit about that here in a moment. But just overall, who are you? How did you wind up here right now?
Well, first there's a big bang. I'm a kid from Kirkwood. I grew up here in Missouri, Kirkwood public high schools, public schools. I'm a product of the fine public school system here in West St. Louis County, Missouri. My whole family all went to the University of Missouri. I rebelled and went to West Point instead. I'm not very good at rebelling, clearly. I did 22 years in the Army, as an officer. I retired as lieutenant colonel. Amid the way, I flew helicopters in combat, did 4 combat tours, picked up job as a public affairs officer, went to grad school at Harvard, a very solid career. Lost my first wife in a terrible car accident. Just a journey. Once I retired, I decided to become a veterans advocate. I worked for 10 years in DC as that. And then the pandemic hit. And like a lot of folks, it kind of changed the dynamic for my life. I closed my company, ended up joining the Lincoln Project. As you know, our friends at the Lincoln Project. I was the senior advisor of Veterans Affairs, and then I became the executive director. And then after that, I've done some politics stuff. The personal side of it, like I said, I lost my first wife. I remarried, had a wonderful life. We divorced in 2020, and I met a lovely woman from my hometown. She convinced me to move back to my hometown. So I left DC behind, came back to St. Louis 4 years ago, and I hit the ground. I hit right as the fall of Kabul was happening. I helped with the local refugees, getting settled with their donations. That was really hard to get. There's so many donations I helped organize. And then I got involved in local politics as I watched things unfold here in Missouri. One, you could see the frustration that's grown with the Republican leadership that's been in power for over 20 years with a supermajority doing whatever they want and not actually making the life here any better. Bill after bill have nothing to do with actually making life better, but doing incredibly insane things. This year, our governor decided to get rid of the capital gains tax and blew a $600 million hole in our budget, or for his friend, for 1%, first state in the union to get rid of it for no good reason except he and his rich friends got a break. So as we went into the spring, if you remember the debate around the big billionaire bill, what struck me one thing, and you'll appreciate this as a fellow service member, is the disrespect they have for the people they serve, right? Do you remember all the senators and all going on TV saying, well, we've got to take this healthcare away from these lazy 27-year-old men who are playing video games and laying on the couch. Well, my son's 20 at the time was 27. At the time last year, over a year and a half ago now, when the ACA window opened, he was a full-time bartender at a very popular local restaurant in his town, didn't offer health insurance. So he applied for the ACA and he got Medicaid because of his salary. He's not lazy. He was working 8-9 hours a day on his feet, right? He had like carpal tunnel from shaking glasses, and to see these people who are supposed to represent all of us smearing so many of us, have so little regard for the people they're supposed to serve. And you and I grew up, we were raised as adults on service to the nation, service to the people, and so little of the Republican caucus, so little the Republicans in Congress had any respect. So circling back to my district, you've got this woman, Ann Wagner. She served for 13 years. She's never once held a town hall. I'm not talking lately, ever.
Are you serious?
Serious, never. She never does town hall. She when you ask her, she says, well, I do a weekly newsletter, so I'm very in touch with my kids. She literally thinks an email that she spams out is staying in touch with her constituents. She's famous for just showing up doing photo ops. She has increased her net worth from $5 million to $26 million. You know, and again we see she has no interest in listening to us and serving the needs of our district and improving lives here. So honestly, last summer, I just started kind of putting together. I said, you know what, I can do this. I can talk on my camera in my basement studio. I can do my show on the Midas Touch Network. I can, you know, yell at my social media, or I could run and put my platform to a higher purpose. So yada yada yada. Here I am running for Congress. And then I ran for Congress. So
yeah, Fred, it's not a shock though when you really think about it, because you put on the uniform for a significant portion of your life, and let's be honest, it's about action. It's about don't tell me, show me, right? And when you are raised in that environment, when you're indoctrinated in that, and you see something wrong, you can't walk past it, you can't ignore it, you can't just talk about it, you have to do something. So I'm not shocked that you're running. What is blowing my mind though is whenever you talk, whenever, you know, I watch you on Midas Touch, you know, I'm on there once a week, this, that, and the other, you have a very, very innate ability to break things down very plainly. And it's like, very plainly. I don't know if that's the Midwest in you or what, but here's the thing. You're citing that your opponent does not do town halls, right? So how in the world is she plugged into what people in the 2nd District of Missouri are going through? I don't understand it.
What are our lives like? Like, what are we dealing with? And it's a unique district. I mean, we're suburban and we're agricultural. There's a lot here. And
what are people saying that's bothering them the most right now?
What's fascinating to me is just they're frustrated with not being represented. You know, one of the biggest things, I rarely get to the point where I get to talk about policies, because people are like, how are you going to win? And you're going to represent us. And the common theme I hear is like, even Republicans, I mean, because the nice thing about being a veteran, you appreciate this, is we get to go into spaces that may not be welcome to your average Democrat. Let's be honest, you know, a veterans barbecue, you know, veterans barbecues aren't the most liberal places, but I go to, you know, I go to all those, and I have the opportunity to talk to fellow veterans, and we may not agree politically, but we talk because we come from a common place. And consistently, I hear them say, yeah, she's worthless. She does nothing for us. You know, I mean, anybody, I mean, on either side, even people on her side who need help don't get it. And they don't bring any money home. I talked to a local elected official. So here in Missouri, our elected local people are nonpartisan, kind of like Georgia. So it's a nonpartisan race. But here, so I've talked to her and I say, what do you need? Like, what do you, we don't get anything, Fred. Like, you know, we'll have meetings and she'll say, oh, well, or she won't say, her staff will say, because they don't meet her personally. And they'll say, oh, well, you know, just so you know, the representative doesn't believe in pork belly spending. So don't really ask for any projects or money. It's like, why the F are you there? I mean, in the end, your job is to bring home the bacon for our district and help us improve. I mean, we have, let me give you a picture of our district. There's a reason there's a river on my logo. There's 5 rivers in my district. The Mississippi, Missouri, major rivers, Mississippi, Missouri, Merrimack, Cascade, and one more. And so 5 major rivers. Okay. You see what's happening in the world, flooding. You hear what's happening in the world with the erosion control. Like it or not, things are changing. People here need help with that. That's federal help for levees, federal help for flood control and damage control, federal help for flood preparation, millions of dollars. That's what FEMA did. FEMA had an entire fund dedicated to flood preparation. All that's gone, and she hasn't lifted a finger to bring it back. She hasn't lifted a finger to help us. And eventually something bad's going to happen, and they're going to blame somebody else. They'll blame Biden. But again, there's no forethought. There's no conversations occurring. This is what we need to improve our lives here. Meanwhile, we've seen manufacturing disappear. We've seen jobs leave the district. We've seen all this happen. And again, you turn to Washington and you get crickets. And so that is my frustration.
It's funny that you mentioned that, even with the floods that happened in Texas and those 4 young ladies who literally left us because of the lack of preparation. That didn't spur anybody to do anything. Where you gotta be,
Bobby, you're quoting me. You're literally quoting me. I say to people all the time, they built a cabin in the 100-year floodplain. Well, they had a 100-year flood, and I drive through, especially the Merrimack River Valley. It's a very tight river. It flows into the Mississippi. And I'm like, Jesus, if we had that kind of rain here, people are going to be wiped out. Like it's going to be bad. And meanwhile, they're activating the National Guard. Not to mention the fact we're Tornado Alley. The governor here only activated the National Guard for 3 days for the St. Louis tornadoes that devastated northern St. Louis. Meanwhile, he's activating many of them for a full year to support ICE operations.
Wow.
So what are your priorities? People don't join the National Guard to serve in their home state, helping scoop up people who are just trying to make a life, right? No, they join because you see the recruiting ads, folks, right? Like the guys carrying the baby through the floodwaters. That's why they join. And instead, we're putting them to work doing things that have nothing to do with actually serving the community. So it's incredibly frustrating for me, somebody who served, who has son-in-law in the National Guard, has served in the Army, has done disaster relief, to see so little regard. Again, it's circling back again, right? That respect, that regard for the people you're supposed to serve. And consistently, I see so little of that regard at every level of government here, from the federal to the state. And so I just thought I should do something about it.
Wow. Well, first of all, let me just say thank you for stepping up, because a lot of people talk that noise and very few actually step up. Secondly, wow, you got my mind racing now. Let me ask you this question. Let me just ask you this question. Based on everything you've seen, there are even Republicans that realize, hey, we've got to do something, and something needs to change, blah, blah, blah. Why is there such a lack of action? Just common sense things. There are things that are bipartisan that people agree on. Why is there no movement here? What do you think that is? Why are they so entrenched one way?
Well, we've got a tribalism. We have to admit there's a tribalism issue we face in our country, right? People, they belong to a tribe. That tribe it's a Republican tribe. There's a conservative tribe. They've been told we're all devil wearing, horn evil. Obviously I want to cut off babies' feet. I don't know. You name the myth or thing they've said about us on the Democratic side for some years. I used to listen to it myself and hear it all the time. So you've got a tribalism aspect that's hard to break. We are in such big silos right now as Americans that it's very hard to break from your tribe. There's a loss. Anybody who's left their party, I left the Republican Party. I was never an activist. I was just a voter. But there's a loss that goes with that. Even today, I'm not a big member of my West Point class, to be honest with you, Bobby, because most of them, I'm a Gen Xer. A lot of those guys and girls are pretty MAGA. I'm not welcome in those spaces. So there's a tribalism aspect that's hard to we cannot disregard that. And then there's the idea they're being fed siloed information. They don't even know they're being lied to. They don't even know that the reason that these things are occurring is because of Trump's tariffs. Then there's something, I had a guest on my show a couple years ago, I believe it was down in Africa, who said very well, there's the cold hard reality, and cold hard reality is settling in for so many people right now. Just now, I'm going to do a video today probably about this farmer bailout.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, $12 billion for the farm. Oh, that's amazing. So the problem is they're going to still make less money just for 1 year than they would have. They just sold their damn soybeans. If Trump hadn't destroyed USAID, if Trump hadn't destroyed our relationship with China, if Trump hadn't given $40 billion to Argentina, who turned around to use the money to lower the taxes on their own grain that they sold to China. So we literally paid our competitor in the world money so they could make more money, and our own farmers are getting $12 billion. They're getting
literally subsidized them. We subsidized the competition.
Right. And then it's like, and it's like that damn hot dog meme, right? Where the guy in the hot dog suit, we're all trying to figure out who did this. Like, no, you did this, bro. You did this. Okay. And the good news is, as I talk to rural people, as I talk to some of our farmers, they know this. They're like, look, I just want to sell my shit, Fred. This is not, they're saying, oh, Biden didn't do this. Biden was
so
fine.
They recognize this now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they do. And so the question though is, but of course, that's not enough. We have to move them to the next level, which is changing that vote. And that it sounds so. It's not just enough to say, they recognize they're being lied to. They also have to believe. It's a two-step process, I think. Right? I had a great conversation with I'll tell you, Senator Andy Kim, and I reached out to Andy Kim and I was thinking about running. And Andy said, Fred, the thing about running, and he did this. He goes, running against an entrenched incumbent. There's a two-step process. One, you have to convince people to fire them, and then two, you have to convince them to hire you. It's not just being better or equal. There's a two-step process. It's a very good, it's very, very insightful point. And so we can make the case. I think part of the reason some people failed in these races, they say, well, I'm really good, so you should vote for me. Okay, yeah, but you still have to make the case your opponent's not good, right? So we have to make our case against Ann Wagner that she's not the right person for this job, just like we made our case against Trump in 2020 when I was at the Lincoln Project, right? We made our case that he should not be commander in chief. So I'm constantly making my case that Ann does not help us. And then two, I got to make the case like, hey, take risk. Go into that booth, hit the D for a while. Look, I'm not telling you to change parties. I'm not saying you have to be a Democrat. You don't have to change your registration in Missouri. Just vote. And look, the honest truth is, if I suck at the job, you can fire me in 2 years. I mean, it's the worst job. There's no worse job in America than representative. You got to run every 2 years, right? You know, it's like, imagine having a job you have to reapply for every 2 years. But that's what I'm signing up for. And it's funny how often I'll see a Republican kind of laugh about that and say, that's a good point. I could fire you, couldn't I? I was like, yeah. And I think in the end, we have to make the case that one, this person's not doing the job. Trump, the administration, the representative of the Congress below him, and then two, you got to replace him with somebody else. There's a better option. We have to convince them that we as Democrats aren't just one, not that guy. Does that make sense? I think that's too often. So I can't just run here in Missouri and say, I'm just not Ann Wagner. No, I have to say, here's my plan for the affordability crisis. Here's my plan for improving economic benefits here. Here's my plan. So I think too often, too many of my peers do that, or people who run for office, like, well, that guy's terrible, so you should hire me. Well, okay, why you?
Right. That's a great segue to what I was going to ask you. So you're absolutely right. They running, just saying I'm not that guy is not enough. Right. What are your priorities from a congressional standpoint? If you get sent to Washington, D.C., what are you prioritizing for the people of the 2nd District?
Everything starts with affordability. I mean, it's become a buzzword right now, but I literally ran because of that. I was watching the season fold back in July. I see my own kids. I've got a son who's I've got a son-in-law who's in the National Guard, just had another kid. They're struggling, doing pretty well. But I've got a daughter who owns her own business. She's had her worst summer in 5 years because of the tariffs, because of the economic hardship. People are afraid to spend money. I've got another son who works for a major corporation in Virginia who can't move into he's got another kid in the way. They can't afford to move into a bigger home than their starter home. So they're trying to figure out how they're going to jam 2 kids and them into a house that has no room for that many. And he works for a major corporation who also just did a bunch of layoffs, right? So they're struggling. I got a son, as I mentioned, who was a bartender, now works in healthcare, thank God. But even that, so, and then all this, the bubbling underneath that entire conversation is healthcare. You can't start a small business if you don't have healthcare. I met a small business owner in Sullivan, Missouri, which is part of my district, far southwest part of my district, and lovely family, 2 veterans. They own a brewery. And I asked the wife, she runs the food part. I said, how do you get your healthcare? She said, well, Medicaid. She goes, Missouri Net. She goes, I just had a kid and I went through Medicaid. And so if we cut Medicaid, if the small business owner has to use it, and they're trying to get rid of immigrants, whatever, they're gonna have a small business. And many people can't afford to go to a small business without healthcare. You just can't do it. Right. I was lucky. I had TRICARE, right? I'm retired, but not everybody is. So you got the affordability layered by intertwined with healthcare, and the challenge we have to our healthcare system, which is so broken. We have to go into Congress. We have to have big ideas, be it. And look, I don't have the answer. I'm not gonna. People are like, oh, what's the answer for it? No, let's not do that. I am talking to a lot of folks saying, here's what we need to do. One, we need to stop this ridiculous increase. We've got to roll back the big billionaire bill. We've got to put the subsidies back in place, because it's not good enough to say it's not working and then screw millions. Of people. Okay. It's just, I have people every day saying to me, I'm so screwed. Fred, I can't afford my healthcare. There's just an article I read yesterday. A woman here in Missouri is going to go from $298 a month to $1,280 a month, 312% increase while she has cancer. Right? That's the kind of increase you're seeing. Even Josh Hawley, it's funny. Josh Hawley, of all people,
I know.
You see that today? He knows. He knows they're screwed because there's no one to blame but them. Because obviously the calculation amongst Congress is always, well, can I blame the other guy? You're F, dude. It's you. You guys did this. And everybody knows you did it. It's your bill. You're proud of that bill. My opponent, Ann Wagner, goes every fucking post she puts on social media is like, I'm so proud of the bill that we, you own it, Gabe. Good job. You
understand that, Fred. I don't understand this. What did they think was going to happen? Like, I know we got in Georgia, we have hospitals that are already shutting down.
Oh yeah, us too.
This year. Hell,
I'm like, the hospital I volunteered in as a kid is closing. In my district, the hospital I was a volunteer at 16 is closing.
But I guess the question I never understood about that bill in particular is, what is the end state? What was the goal of this?
I don't know.
Kick people off of healthcare, to close hospitals. All of this is all intertwined.
They had to know the truth, Bobby, right? They lied to everybody saying, oh, it's the illegal immigrants. They had to know this was a lie. They had to know this was going to backfire. I think they were hoping it wouldn't backfire until after the midterms, at least. But I don't know what or whom they're trying to please with this stuff, because in the end, so many millions of Americans are struggling. And I don't know if they thought it would just get blown over. But when people are talking about losing their lives, I mean, we're not shitting people when we say people are gonna die.
Right. Like
no shit, die.
Full stop.
Legitimately die because they can't get the healthcare they need. And this horse shit of, oh, well, you need to work out more. Are you fucking kidding me? Sorry, I'm that guy. I worked out my entire life. I was in the United States Army. I had my weight checked every month. I barely passed because I worked my ass off. I still got sick as hell. I still had heart disease because my dad had it. I can't change the genetics. I'm the little guy in my family. You know, you know, it's like that's just how it is. So this idea you can run off being sick is so patently ridiculous. And to see these jackasses like Mark Wayne Mullen are saying we're going to reward people for staying healthy, that's not good enough, dude. Cancer doesn't give a shit how many miles you run. Okay. Cancer doesn't give a shit how many push-ups you do. And so it is just mind-boggling to me. They're willing to sacrifice them. And then circling right back again, they're sacrificing Americans. Look, I don't want to say, you know, there's no caveat to that. Americans, and in my case, Missourians, they're sacrificing Missourians. I didn't say African Americans. I didn't say, you know, I didn't say Latinos. I didn't say immigrants, women. Americans are gonna die, and that's on you because you're a United States representative in the United States Congress, and God damn it, whether you like it or not, you represent all Americans, and that's why I'm angry enough to run for Congress. You know, it's like, you know, I was that mad. You know, it's like enough's enough. My God, what are we doing here?
They have gone out of their way to create a bill that is screwing everybody equally. I guess that's what equality looks like. I don't know.
Except the top 10%. And there's the real crux of the matter. Let's be very honest. 67% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck right now. 67. 50% of all consumer spending in the United States is done by the top 10%. Those are numbers to put in your head. We're not talking about saving the middle class anymore. We're not talking about rising up the lower class. We're talking haves and everybody else, you know, and the 10%, they're doing great. We have a two-tier economy. There's the people who are just kicking ass, buying luxury goods, traveling internationally, spending all the money. Again, 50% of spending. So they're keeping most of our economy afloat with their spending. And then there's the people who are skipping breakfast at McDonald's. There's people. I had a woman approach me. I had a woman approach me at an event, hugged me and said, Fred, I love what you're doing. You know, I've been a follower for a long time. I love you running for Congress. I'd love to donate to your campaign, but I don't think I'm going to have health insurance next month. So she doesn't. I have people canceling their subscriptions to my Substack and sending me these just heartbreaking notes saying, Fred, I'm so sorry. I'm like, whoa, my shit's free. Okay. It's okay. You know, but they're cutting back on their $7 a month subscriptions. We are in a place where people are worried about $7 newsletters. And meanwhile, the rich are richer. My opponent has increased her net worth to $26 million, according to Quiver Analytics. According to Quiver Analytics, Ann Wagner made $3.9 million in the stock exchange in May alone, the same month the tariffs kick in. I don't think my opponent, Ann Wagner, has a first goddamn idea how the average Missourian's living their life, how the average Missourian is living paycheck to paycheck, how the average Missourian is questioning whether they should have pets because they can't afford pet food. We ran a food drive here on November 1st. We raised 4,300 pounds of food in 2 hours. It's gone already. And I tell you right now, we need representatives in Congress who have had lived lives and have had, like, I've lost everything twice. I used to hide that fact. And I was like, you know what? On 9/11, I got mobilized in the Army and my wife got fired from her job as a flight attendant and we were dead broke. And it only took 3 months for us to be broke. When the pandemic hit my business, like, over 400,000 other small businesses, I lost all my clients in about a 2-week period and never recovered. I got back up again and I dusted myself off and I got back to work trying to take care of my family because that's what we do as Americans. We don't quit. And I don't think we've got enough people serving our nation who have had the experience of losing it all and having to start from scratch. They haven't faced their own, you know, for their own mortality, even as you and I have as service members in combat. Too many of them have lived very comfortable lives and they don't understand. They don't respect those of us who haven't. And
they've lived some protected lives by other people. And I think you nailed on something that is very, very key here. The relatability of representatives at the highest levels of our government is gone. It's interesting. The Republicans that seem to be breaking from the fever, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene and all these others, you know, The reason, because I know where Marjorie Taylor lives in the state of Georgia, is because you cannot go home to that district in Northwest Georgia and not see what's happening.
I've walked those streets.
Panhandling, freaking people closing businesses in shops. Like she said, her kids can't even get health care, and they're in their 20s.
Her own kids. Yeah.
Right. Now, granted, my big beef is, why does it have to happen to you before you recognize that this is happening to everybody else?
What happened to your human empathy, right?
Exactly. But okay, fine. Style points be damned. You're here now, right? How is it you voted for a bill that she even herself admitted had not read fully?
Nope.
Right? And I guarantee you, if you gave everybody true serum on Capitol Hill out of the 535, you may have gotten 100 that read that entire bill, if you're lucky.
Get their staff done.
Yeah, right, exactly. And here's my thing, Fred. This is what I'm really trying to wrap my mind around. How can they, the Speaker of the House, the Senate Majority Leader, the President of the United States, can look Americans in the eye and tell them everything is going well? Just blatantly lie. Just blatantly lie.
That's why so few of them are actually meeting us in person, Bobby. I mean, that's it right there. That's why, circling back to my own count, she's never done a town hall. They call her photo op Ann because she just shows up at very targeted places, does a photo op. She'll do like a day of photo ops wearing the same outfit. It's become a bit of a running joke here in the district that she'll farm out these pictures for like 3 or 4 days over the week wearing the same outfit because she went to 3 different businesses in as quick as she could.
Right.
Oh, look, hey, our favorite one was when she last fall. I gotta tell the story. It's I hike. That's my thing. I hike.
Yep.
My doctor gave the riot act about 4 years, said you got to left your lazy butt. So I did. And so I'm always hiking. And then I do these walk and talks. I'll flip my camera. I talk to the camera. It's just a thing. So about 2 months ago, she posted a picture of her next to a trail sign next to a very busy highway in our district saying, it's fall in Missouri's 2nd district. And we have some wonderful trails. Here I am at one of my favorite trails. And if you know the area, it's literally like right next to that. It's not a trail. It's a trailhead. And she wasn't dressed for hiking. It's like, oh, look at me. I'm one of you. And it's become comical. Then last week, about 2 weeks ago, during the shutdown, they posted a picture of her in an empty office with bubble wrapped office equipment behind her on a shelf with a blank. You can't make this up, about a blank like sheet of paper in front of her on a very important. She's on an important call with Admiral such and such. You're like,
oh my god,
come on,
Come on,
it's just come on. And people we're savvy enough now. There was a time when a politician could get away with that, but we are savvy enough now to say, look, this isn't working for me, man. You've got to actually do more for us. You have to step up. So people are demanding more, and in steps like me and some others to say, look, you need to face voters. But circling back to your point, they're not facing us, and the few that are getting an earful, and they try to gut it out and act like everything is okay. But the truth is, people with their lived lives are getting frustrated, and it's not just Democrats. And I think the reality you're going to see is that's why so many Republicans are retiring. That's why they're nervous about leaving. That's why Trump's all of a sudden freaking the F out about affordability, because it isn't a scam and it isn't a contract. Everything. Check it out, Bobby. In Missouri, we have the highest increase of energy prices in the United States this year. In 2025, Missouri's energy prices have gone up 37%. 37% in a year? In 1 year, in 10 months, 37%. And at the same time, we're getting ready to get their healthcare prices going to go up, not just for ACA people, but for everybody's going up. At the same time, you see property, again and again. And now our idiot governor is talking about getting rid of the income tax, but then jacking up sales tax. Well, who's that going to affect? It's not the rich people who from New York. It's going to be us. It's going to be the little people. So again and again, they're ignoring the will of the people and ignoring the needs of the people and the lived life. It's not the price of eggs, for God's sake. It's the price of everything. It's the highest gap between median income and median house price in the history of America. It's just on and on. And it's just, there's this, they just don't listen. And look, man, you know what gets me, Bobby, is I'm older than you are, I'm sure, but it's people, I can't tell you how often, this has been probably people say, what's the most surprising thing you see on the trail? Without question, how often I speak to people who look like me, 60, 55, whatever, parents, Gen X, and again, all of them to a person, man, woman, say, I'm worried about my kids. I got a kid in college. right?
Yep.
I got a kid in college. I don't think they're going to be able to get a job. I got a kid who's struggling to live. I think they're going to have to move home. Did you know we have the highest number of 18 to 24-year-old men living with their parents in history right now, according to a thing I read the other day? So we have got a situation where the opportunity that we were given, the American dream. My dad was a World War II Marine, first in his family to go to college off the GI Bill. All four of his kids went to college. That's not the dream our kids have. My kids don't dream of owning a home. They don't think it's ever going to be a thing.
I don't think it's possible.
We, somewhere along the line, people that look like me, maybe you, people look like us, lost the bubble. And lost, and our kids don't have the dreams we had. And when we've been poo-pooing it, we've been besmirching them a lot of times. Oh, Gen Z's lazy with their avocados. No, man, they're screwed. And they've seen they saw the 2008 recession. They've seen 20 years of war. They know the truth about us. And while we've been lackadaisically going out of bed, I think Scott Galloway in his book said 70-year-olds today are 34% more wealthy than they were 40 years ago. But people below the age of 40 are 24% less wealthy than people that age 30 years ago. So believe it or not, the younger generations have gone backwards while the older generations have increased. And so we have a wealth gap by age. We have a wealth gap by life, and that is when things break. And if we who look like us, who had the privilege of being in those older generations who aren't doing as badly, if we don't take a moment to put the ladder back down behind us and rise up future generations, history will not forgive us, and I'm not willing to let that happen, and look, Congress, there's 435 of them. How much power will I have? I don't freaking know, but it's more than me yelling at a camera. And if I can help 750,000 people in Missouri too, I'll do it. And if it pisses them off, because the other thing we're going to have to do is hard stuff, because they've destroyed our government. That's going to have to be rebuilt. But I look at it too, like an earthquake, right? Like after an earthquake hits a city, you don't rebuild the same buildings, right? You build them smarter,
build brand new, smarter.
You build brand new ones, you build them smarter tech and stuff. So we will have to rebuild our government smarter than it was, but we're going to rebuild it, and that's going to cost money. And and so it's just, we have got a Herculean task ahead of us. And I tell anybody who will listen to me, I am willing to serve 2 years and be fired if I'm not afraid, so I'm not afraid of doing hard things while I'm there.
Right.
And if we have people whose job, somebody said, Fred, if you really want to be a congressman, you should wait 2 or 3 more years, 2 more, 4. I'm like, that wasn't my dream. I didn't sit around going, gee, I want to be a congressman. I just want to do something to make the world better. And if this opportunity is that opportunity, then I'll do that. And I'm willing to do it hard enough that I get fired. And I think not enough people go to Washington saying, I am more than happy for you to fire me in 2 years if I can go to bed at night knowing I tried to do the right thing and make life. And I think that's the most important thing.
Dr. King talked about the urgency of now, right? And that is exactly what you're hammering on, Fred. Let me get you out of here on this, because with your background experience in the military, I just want to make sure that I'm not crazy. The Venezuelan boat strikes. The upheaval that's being caused, and now Congress trying to, do their constitutional job. But looking into it. Do you buy anything that your Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, is saying?
No, zero. I've known Pete Hegseth for 12, 13 years. I knew when he was at Conservative Veterans America. He didn't like me then. My organization, Scout Cons, was always very honest. Like my clients would say, hey, let's do something with CV. I'm like, no, we're not doing and because Pete has always been a dishonest broker. He's never been a decent man. He's always been this guy. And it's sad because he should be so much more. They're lying. Every aspect of this is illegal. There's not a single aspect that's legal. Just smoking a boat in the middle of the Eastern Pacific that's over 2,000, 3,000 miles from the United States is not legal. And people attack me. I've had a number of these people come at me and say, hey, Fred, you libtard, we see you guys defending the drug dealers. I'm not defending drug dealers. What I'm defending is the rule of law.
Thank you.
I'm defending this is about, are we a nation of laws? Are we a nation of morals? Or are we a nation of lawlessness? Because look, the crosshair only has to slide about 1,000 miles, and now we're smoking trucks on American highways. Is that okay? I mean, again, so it is that kind of a slippery slope. People become crazy with, why am I'm not being hysterical. And I say, what if they start smoking Americans they think are bad guys? If you can simply decide someone's a narco terrorist or whatever fucking name they come up with and smoke them without any due process, and we're just supposed to say, trust me, bro. Right. And I did a whole video and I was like, I'm sorry. Trust me, bro, ain't enough. You know, I mean, look, and here's the thing for me too, and you'll appreciate it because you're a sailor, is this. You and I both know there's young men and women holding that trigger. It's not Hegseth. It's not Admiral what's his fuck. It is young men and women, possibly our own kids. I had a son who served in the 82nd Airborne. I had a son-in-law who serves in the National Guard. There's young men and women who are the ones putting the crosshairs on those people and killing them.
Yep.
And now we find out they put crosshairs on people who are just trying to survive after being blown up, and we turn them into red mist. And there's a young man or a young woman who's got to live the rest of her goddamn life knowing they pulled the trigger, not knowing if that target was legitimate or not. Pete Hegseth's going to sleep fine. Trump's going to sleep fine because they're not the ones being asked to murder a fellow human being. And the one thing I've learned in my 22 years in the Army and life beyond that is asking someone to kill someone should be the most difficult decision you make as a human, as a leader, and especially as a politician, because it's not a bumping chest thing. The person who's actually killing someone has to take on the responsibility of taking another human life. I don't care if they're good or bad. The people I know with the worst PTSD from my 4 combat tours, including especially Desert Storm, because a lot of PTSD came out of Desert Storm, short war, a lot of fucking trauma. And I got to tell you, one of my friends got in a tussle at a checkpoint after the ceasefire. He killed a guy. He emptied his magazine into a guy's chest during a scuffle. And let me tell you, my friend did not recover from that. I'm not saying it took him a long time. He did not recover from that. Because he did the right thing. It was a justifiable kill, but he was forced to take another human's life in combat. And I just want leaders in Congress and leaders in the White House and leaders in the Pentagon that understand that asking our children to kill other people should be the last thing they resort to. And instead, they think it's a punchline. They think it's a giggle. It's a gotcha tweet. I mean, did you see the one the other day where he replied? He quote tweeted some right-wing guy saying, your wish is my command. He jokes about killing human beings and then pretends to be a Christian. Those were somebody's kids. Look, I don't know if they're criminals or not. Maybe we don't even know if those are people those are being human trafficked. We don't know if those people in that boat are actually hostages of the real drug dealers.
That's
right.
Exactly
I mean, we don't know who they are. Maybe they're being held hostage. Hey, look, man, we'll kill your family if you don't take this boat. And then they get smoked. We just smoked the actual victims. We don't know that because we're too busy fucking bragging about it. Again and again. And then we see the Coast Guard swoop in and pick up a boat like no big whoop. It's just, again, ordering our men and women to kill other humans should be the greatest and most difficult decision a leader made. I know it was for me. Or sending men and women to their deaths, as I had to in Desert Storm, where one of my air crews went on a mission and never came back. I carry that burden today. The decision to send Hal and Mike on a mission that I didn't go on and that they didn't return from is still a weight on my shoulders 40 or 35 years later. I wish that Pete Hegseth had the moral compass to feel the weight of the people he's killing. But I don't believe he does. And I think he needs to go. It's
I agree with you. I think
I got a little carried away there, Bobby. I'm sorry.
No. But this is why I asked the question, because so many Americans, the majority overwhelmingly have not served. And the thing is, they're buying into this 1980s action flick that Trump and Hegseth are trying to put together.
Killing
That's
drug
not
dealers,
reality.
Man. Why do you like drug dealers? You're cartel. Where's the fisherman, Fred? I don't know. All I see is red mist. I don't know who they are.
It's literally a bad episode of Miami Vice.
You're what same boats.
I mean, we grew up with that. Generation X. We know what that show is. I'm like, this is what they think this is. And here's the thing: as more intelligence and everything is made public, to find out these boats aren't even going to us. But not only that, they keep saying fentanyl, like that's where it comes from. Where that's not the case either. And so we have not seen one name of one person they have killed. Not one. And the fact of the matter
we know exactly who's in that boat. You don't exactly know who's in that boat. There's no way you know exactly who's in that boat.
No.
It's just a lie.
Sure as hell can
trust me, bro. Trust me, bro.
Yeah.
I don't trust you. I don't trust you, bro. I don't trust you. I see who you fired. Look, I knew, and here's what makes me the angriest is I said the day he took over, and that Friday when he fired the lawyers, I said there's only one reason you fire the lawyers. Because you want to do illegal shit. And here we are. 10 months later, we're doing illegal shit. and there's no question.
Gutted the legal checks. They
on purpose.
This was, and here's the thing: Hegseth. People forget Hegseth went down to the USS Iwo Jima right when they left on their deployment before this really kicked off. He just went down there for a couple of days. This, that, and the other. Now, what we didn't know now behind the scenes is him and Admiral Halsey were going at it, right?
Yep.
He gets removed, all this, the legal justifications. You've got people over here, the story broke about how they didn't want to record the people they brought in, which was against Protocol 2, that Melissa broke. I mean, we are watching in real time war crimes, because here's the thing that I will ask anybody watching us. If someone did this to Americans,
right,
who are fishing off the coast of wherever in their nice, expensive yachts and just got wiped out, and Venezuela was like, those guys are drug dealers.
Commercial terrorists.
Take it?
They're commercial terrorists. We'll make up a term called commercial terrorists. They were terrorizing our shipping. Who knows? I mean, because we're just making names up anyway. Like narco terrorists isn't actually an international thing. It's not a real thing.
No.
So they're narco terrorists. Oh my God, we hate terrorism. 9/11. It's just it is. And the horniness to kill. I think that's what bothers me about my fellow Americans. You see polls, 60% support this. You know why? You've never seen the damage it does.
Bingo. There it is.
You know what I mean?
There it is.
I went into Desert Storm. I got sent in so one of the most vivid memories I have of war was my first war. And I went in and we had the Ramallah oil field battle. It was our last battle. It was actually the ceasefire. We fought the last battle of the war. 24th ID, the Apache Battalion. I was sent back in the next day to survey who it was. Like, we didn't know who we hit. And I landed my scout helicopter and I walked the grounds. I climbed onto vehicles. I opened up hatches. And one of the most vivid memories we have is that one of the vehicles that had been in the middle of the convoy, it was 6 lanes of traffic, was a bus full of troops that had been shredded by both ground fire and Apache fire. And it was just a butchery. It's indescribable. It's indescribable. And when you see that and you smell it, it doesn't go away. And so for them to so lightly and blithely kill, I worry about that. I worry about that as a moral human being. And so I haven't even brought up religion. How do you call yourself a religious person? But again, I want leaders who can't sleep at night because they ordered our kids to kill somebody. And I believe right now we've got leaders who sleep better because it's the thrill of a lifetime to be able to do that, to order someone to kill. And I believe that the moral compass of our leadership is broken. And then I have to circle back to my campaign because I'm running for Congress. I'm not running for president. I'm not running for Pentagon.
Right.
Where is my member of Congress? Her son served. She serves in the intelligence community. Why is my opponent, Ann Wagner, so deathly silent about the intelligence being used to slaughter other humans? Why is my representative so blithely comfortable with killing when she literally posts a Bible quote every Sunday religiously? She is by every measure a strong Catholic, and I respect that. I do, but I don't respect it when when your religious steadfastness doesn't include the responsibility for killing other humans.
Well, I think you're asking a very good question.
I mean, where does the church end? Where the idea that you accept without question the justification of murder, because that's what we're talking about when you go to war. That's what you're talking. That's why it should be so hard to go to war. What's the old saying? It should be hard to get. It's hard to go to war. It's hard to get out of one. Right. Once the killing starts, it never ends. And I just don't think these people seem to understand that. And it's because they won't pay the price. It's going to be our sons and daughters. It's our sons and daughters. Oh, by the way, we just got word they're cutting a bunch of mental health professionals throughout the VA as we speak. The same people that'll help those kids. It's just you're a never-ending cycle.
There's this mentality that is permeating American society that we have never seen before. And what I mean by that, Fred, is even a generation ago, the wealthiest Americans still said it's our responsibility to serve. The Kennedys had people serve. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You name the Roosevelts. We can go down the list of these dynasties of people that someone in that family, you were going to go serve, whether it's in the military, whether it's in society. It was an obligation that they felt like they had due to their status in life. We have done a complete 180 on that, where it's now, hey, we got ours. Good luck getting yours. And by the way, go do our hard work. The fact that we have so many members of Congress, so few that have either served themselves
Yep.
or have family members that serve, helps them even separate themselves further from this. But you hit on something that I want to make sure we cover this, and while we get ready to get you out of here, you have shown remarkable resilience. There are veterans that struggle every day to get up and go just do the job, right? Do the living that is required. And they got to find a reason each day to push forward. How have you been able to do this? Like I said, you have had some unimaginable loss, personally, professionally. What keeps you going, Fred? Because I mean, you keep going, and a lot of people would have quit.
I'm stubborn. No, well, you know, I've told the story. I think I told a story before. I've got this. I can't even see on camera. I got this one tattoo. There it is, right there. It says, "I'm not done yet." And in a lot of ways, as the years went by, I've always been one who says, "Okay, that was bad. What's next? You know, can I get through this?" And you know, after my first wife was killed, you know, I remember laying in bed one night. You got to laugh. I was laying in bed and I was really struggling, and I said, "Well, I got a warm bed." You know what I mean? You know, I'm in a bed. I was a winter ranger. You know, I joke that ranger school gives you a level of suck for the rest of your life. Like, so you know, like, well, this sucks, but that was so bad. Really, at night, I was freezing in a mountain in Georgia. You know, and I said to myself, "This is bad." But I got this. I constantly assess thing, and then later in life, as I had children, it's sort of cliche, I says to say it, but I'd look at my kids and say, "Well, I can't leave them. You know, I need to leave. I know what my departure would do to those kids, and therefore I must care. I must find a way to keep going. So I'm not done yet." And I would dust myself off and find a way to give back. And in many ways, the reverse of my loss has been my overwhelming desire to serve more. You know, it's okay. I'm still here. Hal and Mike didn't make it back. I owe them to do better. You know, Jennifer, the baby, got killed. I owe them to live a good life and have children and raise them right. And I've not always done well. I've had failures. I'm not perfect by any stretch of imagination. I have made a lot of mistakes. But in the end, I'm not done yet. And so for me, it was a matter of I have to keep moving forward, and I can't quit yet, because there's for whatever reasons I've always felt like there's a reason to keep going, that there's a reason to keep. And I think I say that to some of my peers. I had a very nice conversation. I had a peer here, a good friend, Marine, who got divorced and was really struggling. And I remember I talked to him on New Year's Eve, and I said, "Look, man, this is bad. I know you're in a bad place right now, but how much worse will it be if you depart? Like, how much worse will it be on your son, who you look, at least you get to see him some, you know?" And I think we may have pulled each other from a ledge at that moment, because you have to ask yourself that, like, what do you leave behind? So for me, I've always been driven by, I'm not done yet, that there's more I can do. I think that's why I'm running. It's like, well, I've got a good thing. I've got a good life. I've got a beautiful fiance. We've got a very comfortable life. She's very successful in her career, thank God, because I'm not. And, you know, I got incredible 4 kids. I got 2 more kids with her. I got 5 grandkids, another on the way. It's like, okay, well, you know, I'm not done yet. I got to do more. And then I meet these good people here. And as I run, the number of people who put their heart into you, who give you money, who volunteer for you, it's like, all right, I owe them now. I get up each day saying, look, I don't want to do 6 hours of call time today, but I owe it to these people who put their faith in me to put the work in and do the best work. Do I want to have 18-hour days? No. So I wish I had an easy answer for that. I did a lot of therapy, you know, but in the end, you just go, okay, what are my values? What do I stand for? And why do I keep going? And for me, my values are this nation. It's my brothers and sisters. It's my fellow Americans. It's my kids. And for whatever reasons, I've been given some talents. And if I can't put those talents to good to make a better world, that leave behind a better world, then why do I bother? And I won't be able to stand at my dad's, and I can't stand at my dad and mom's grave in Jefferson Barracks Veteran Cemetery and look at that stone. And I never want to be able to say I didn't do my best. And so I think that maybe it was this. I just want to be able to stand there at my maker or whomever I end up meeting at the end of this whole thing and say, I tried. I think that's all we can do, right? It's all we can do is I tried. And you know, when you fall, you dust yourself off and get back in and try again, you know? So Anyway, I wish I had a more philosophical answer than that.
No, that was more than enough. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why this man needs to go to Congress. It's that type of perspective. It's not taking you being here for granted. It's not taking what you have, for granted. You worked hard to get it, but most importantly, it's about pouring out for everybody else. And if someone asks me what is wrong currently with the United States government and Congress in particular, I would literally say they're not there for us. They're there for them.
Right.
And we got to send people who are there for the rest of us. And ladies and gentlemen, Fred Wellman is exactly that man to send. So Fred, thanks for taking the time, man.
Thanks, Bobby. Appreciate it.
Fast, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate
so much to cover. And as this thing gets knee deep in it, going into next year, we're gonna have to have you back on and just get your take
I'd love
on
that.
what's going on, man, because
it's exciting.
You're doing great work, and we are very appreciative that you have once again felt called to serve. So thank you very much.
I'd be remiss if people want, you see it on the screen, wellmanformo.com. I'd be remiss if I didn't plug. You got to plug it, otherwise I'm not a candidate.
Totally.
You got to plug it. So we do need help, folks. My opponent's got $4 million in the bank. She is well funded.
Wow.
I hate. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So we have to get some funds. So if anybody can give $5-10, give a monthly donation, $10 a month, great. But everything you need to know is at wellmanformo.com. We are spending the money to put it to work. We're spending the money to hire good people. We're spending the money to build an army of volunteers, an army of canvassers. We're going to run every single corner of this district, but I could use the help. I'm not going to lie. So any help is appreciated.
And in my role as president of Veterans for Responsible Leadership, you have been thoroughly endorsed by us.
Yes, I appreciate that too. Thank you.
Stamped, signed, and sealed, delivered, and hopefully more endorsements will come, Fred. If you need anything from us, please don't hesitate to let us know. And thank you for joining us on Anchor Watch today.
Thanks, Bobby. It was great hanging out with you, man. And by the way, beat Navy.
Hell no. I ain't getting away with that.
Hey, man, I just had to happen.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.